Okay, it's saying I'm unmuted. I don't know what else to do. Okay, you still can't hear me. Thanks, Michaela. But I don't know what to do. Settings. Microphone. Okay, is that making any... How's that? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I'm thinking that if you're not saying anything, you cannot hear me. Any better? No, you obviously can't hear me because you'd be saying that you can hear me. Hang on. I'm now going to watch myself to see if I can hear myself. Okay, I can hear myself singing. You definitely can't hear me? Okay, I can hear me. Oh, you can hear me! Yay! Okay, there we go. Something worked. Brilliant. And you all got to hear me sing, so that's fun. Your evening entertainment. Anyone need more wine? Fabulous. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. As you can see, I continue to enjoy the great experiences of Google Hangout technical issues, but I actually am loving Google Hangout, so I'm going to persevere with them, and I'm glad that you can all hear me. So for some of you, I know this isn't your first Google Hangout, and for some of you, I know it is. So just welcome back if you've been here before in the green room. As I've said last time, I like to think the green room is, you know, like our kind of backstage pass for bloggers who want to get a better idea of how to work with brands. And tonight specifically, how we can use our media kits as a really great tool to present ourselves to brands and agencies. So thanks for hanging out with me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm super excited that you can hear me. So if you're wondering if you're in the right place tonight, then I'm just let me give you an idea of the kind of bloggers who are going to benefit from tonight. So you might have a media kit, but you're not sure if you've got the right stuff in there. You might not be getting the sort of uptake that you would like to from brands, and you're wondering if your media kit is part of the problem. So I want to make sure that we've got a media kit that converts for us. So we're going to talk about some of that tonight. Maybe you just think this will be an interesting conversation, and I'm sure you're right. So thanks for being here and being part of it. And maybe you have loads of questions, and we are going to have a Q&A time later this evening, so hold on to those, and feel free to put them in the question box. That was for you, Rebecca, because I know you missed my singing earlier, so I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what you weren't missing out on. Awesome. Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't have a media kit. It doesn't matter if you've got an awesome media kit. We're going to get clearer tonight about what a media kit's actually for. We're going to go through some of the basics, but I've also got some kind of advanced tips near the end for those of you who are kind of wondering about that. So hang out. It's going to be great. Some of you know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Louisa Clare. I ran a personal blog for over 7 years. Last year was named by Mama Mia as one of Australia's most clickable women. I was a KidSpot VIP blogger, and this year I'm one of the judges for the KidSpot Voices of 2014. And I'm also the owner of Brand Meets Blog, a blogger outreach agency where we work with innovative corporate brands to connect them with bloggers for outreach programs. And we also train bloggers on how to work professionally with brands. So this is something I'm kind of have a lot of experience on both sides of the fence, and I'm just really excited about helping bloggers understand how they can have better outcomes for themselves and their readers and the brands that they work with. So thank you for being here. Though today I spent a lot of time talking about these things, didn't start out that way and having amazing opportunities. I started out blogging because a friend suggested that it would be a great way to keep in touch with me, and then no one read my blog. And so that was fun and just gave me an opportunity to get a sense of this amazing blogging community that exists around the world, and has taken me on a really amazing journey, as I know it has for many of you. And you know, when it comes to media kits, I've had I've kind of been on both ends of the spectrum where I've used them really specifically, kind of creating bespoke packages or kind of documents for brands for specific activities, and I've actually spent a lot of the time, especially towards the end of my personal blog, not using one at all. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight as well, and get a bit clearer on what the purpose of a media kit is and when to use it. So let's talk about what we're going to actually talk about tonight. We're going to talk about what a media kit is and what it isn't, whether you really need to have one, how to use one to get the outcomes you're looking for with brands, and also some Q&A time. So hang on to your hats. And I do just want to thank you again for being here, because I know it's late, there's probably something good on the telly, and so I just want to thank you for giving your time to this and encourage you that it's going to be worth you sticking around, because I know this is really, without a doubt, I get emails about this every single day, people emailing me about their media kits. I know this is a topic people have lots of questions about, so it's worth sticking around, because if you stick around you get the information, if you don't stick around you don't, and so this is the stuff that gets you ahead of the game. So, you know, grab that cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever you need, and let's switch on together. And at the end, I've got a special something for some of you too, so I'm going to make it worth your while being here. Okay, what is a media kit? A media kit is a tool that you use to introduce yourself and a blog. So bloggers use a media kit to sort of neatly package up and present themselves and present all the information a brand might need or be looking for when they're putting together a blogger campaign. Brands use media kits to understand more about a particular blog and a blogger, and as a resource when they're reporting back to a client or internally on a campaign. So the most important thing I guess I really want you to take away from tonight is that a media kit is a resource that you use. It's not a complete package. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not a someone's emailed me, I'll hit back and send them my media kit. It's a tool that you use to introduce yourself and your blog, but it's also a tool that whoever you're sending it to is going to use. And so having that end user kind of position in mind is going to make a big difference to how much you stand out, because I think the conversation about media kits often sort of is limited to the idea about what we put into them and how we present ourselves, and not necessarily around how the person who we're sending it to is actually going to use that document. So if you take nothing else away from tonight, I want it to be that it's a resource that you can use to promote and present your blog to the people who you want to work with. Yeah, that would be my main point. So on a basic level, the sorts of things you want to put into a media kit are things like your details and information, include your name, include a link to your blog, include a phone number, include an email address. Even though it might seem really obvious to you, you think, well, this person's like reading my media kit. You know, they might be reading lots of media kits, so think about how you can make it easy for them by putting all of that information up front and center for them. You also want to put in stuff around your blog information, of course. So you want to put in things like your monthly uniques and your total page views. Don't just put in your total monthly page views. That picture of your uniques and page views together is the combined picture that brands need to see. You want to put in any social stats and include your links, but be sort of careful about that. Sometimes I look at media kits and they've said they have like 110 people following them somewhere. If you have less than 250 people on a social network, don't even include it. Unless it's Facebook, you probably have to include Facebook. But it's not about showing them that you're everywhere. It's about showing where you are most effective. So focus on the places where they're going to get value from, and that's going to be the places where you have the most kind of engaged audiences and communities. Then also include anything in your media kit that demonstrates your strengths. And again, it's not about just giving them everything, it's about giving them the stuff that's going to help them understand you and that's going to be relevant to their brand. So if you've got readers who are spending a good amount of time on your site, or if you've got a high number of pages per visit, a low bounce rate, things like that, include those stats in there. Include things that show how your readers are using your site, but also include things that show that you understand that blogging and blogger influence is about more than just how many people visit your site every month. If you've got any stats around the demographics of people who visit your site, or anything else around their geography that is going to be relevant and useful for a brand, include that too. It's not about putting everything in there. It's about playing to your strengths and showing how your blog works so that they can get a picture of that. Include in your media kit a general guide to your approach and any associated costs that go with that. one of the big questions we get asked, and I'm sure one of you will ask it tonight, so I'll preempt you, is you know, whether you should put your rates in there or not. And I want to say yes, because you want to make it easy for the person who you're emailing. So you want to avoid like 40 emails back and forwards about different stuff. So put all the basics in there, but maybe if you've got some flexibility around that, or if you understand that some people have bigger budgets than other people and you're kind of open to having the conversation, then you can put something in there like rates starting from X. I don't recommend putting things in like rates are negotiable or anything like that, because I think that is probably not positioning yourself as strongly as you could. But I think if you've got some flexibility, you could say rates starting from, and that would give me as an agency person the indication that I could come and talk to you and say, you know, this is my budget, or this is, you know, if we did this, what could we do, and you know, that kind of have that kind of conversation. So yeah, that would be my response to that. And the other thing that, and I guess this goes into, we're going to talk a bit more about this down the track, the idea that a media kit is a tool and not just a one-stop shop, is that you could even have multiple media kits based on the kind of approaches you're getting, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So it is good to put some kind of guide to your approach and any associated costs, and if there's anything in there that you wouldn't work with or you wouldn't work on, so for example an agency comes to you and just wants your media kit because they want to have an idea of who you are, but you don't know who they represent or it's not a particular brand, then you could say in there, you know, we don't work with these sorts of brands, or we prefer to work with these sorts of brands. That could be in there as well if you feel particularly strongly about something. And case studies are really powerful to show the brands that you've already worked with before, and to you know, give that sort of social proof that you're a tried and tested blogger. You're not just and if you're just starting out and you haven't worked with other brands, then you might use your own initiative to write some blog posts about brands, products that you love or already use, or buy some things yourself and then write about them, and then provide links to those examples, so that even though you haven't necessarily collaborated with that brand, you can still give an example of your style when you're writing about brands, and also the way that your readers engage with that sort of content in terms of the comments they leave and the social shares of that post. So case studies and social proof is a really great thing. And if you have a really great experience with the brand, every time you work with a brand, you know, ask them for some feedback, ask them for some, you know, a mini testimonial, and you could use that in there, and then you've got another brand saying, oh, you know, she worked with this brand who's like our competitor or someone who's really respected within our industry, and they gave positive feedback, and that can be really powerful for you. So those are the kind of basic things that you want your media kit to actually include. But as I kind of alluded to before, there's a problem with media kits, and that is that they can't be all things to all people. And if you've read any stuff on our blog before or been in any of these other hangouts, you'll know that one of the main questions you need to be asking about when you know, considering working with a brand is, what are their goals and objectives, and what are they wanting to get out of the campaign, and how you can help meet those goals. And so because every brand and agency will have different goals, it's hard to just have one document that's going to speak to everybody. So this is where I want to encourage you to think of your media kit as a tool and as a resource and as a way to introduce yourself in a professional capacity, but not as the only way that you negotiate with brands. So you might have one template that you tweak, that you have saved, and when someone comes to you, you can kind of make some sort of changes based on that initial conversation of what are their goals, so that they've come to you and they've said one of their goals is to grow their Facebook page. So you go back and you get your media kit out and you tweak it slightly to skew the focus of what you're going to deliver for them to be around Facebook, as opposed to if they're wanting to drive traffic to their website, and you know that most people go and click on links from your blog rather than from your Facebook page, then you're going to have the focus more around a blog post with some sort of supporting social media activity. So I think the thing that's going to guide your decision around the way you approach this is to look at whether there's a consistent pattern for the types of brands and agencies or campaigns that you're getting approached about, and you might find that you're getting a lot of people just requesting your media kit because they want it on file, and so therefore a template that covers off some of the things I mentioned previously would be really appropriate, but you might find that actually you're getting a lot of people coming to you because they see that you've got a really big Facebook page that's really active and they're wanting to leverage that, and so therefore you might create a template that's skewed around that, and then you've got one thing that you can kind of send off more easily with less kind of effort on your part, but you've also got another template you can tweak when you need to. And I guess that goes back to, you know, to be efficient about this, rather than just hitting reply and sending a media kit every time someone reaches you, is to come up with another kind of communication strategy where you get to the heart of what their goals are, so that then the way you respond is based on that conversation, not on their initial approach. Because, you know, what I see about PR agencies and brands is they're doing a lot better. A lot of them are really doing a much better job in 2014 than they were back in 2010. But it's a high turnover industry. It's got a lot of new people coming into it all the time, really transient kind of industry, and there's a constant need to re-educate the people who are coming into these roles. And so you can't assume that the person who's pitched you, you can't assume what their experience is with working with bloggers. And so taking the lead a little bit in the way that you respond, but in a really polite and professional way, can be something that makes you stand out. And so it's just worth having these conversations and not assuming that they've actually thought through all of these things themselves. You can set the kind of standard and the tone of that conversation a bit through this process. So I've got my three main tips for you when you're putting a media kit together. The first is to keep it short. You know, 2 pages is plenty unless you've got loads of photos and white space. And if you've got a blog that's got a really beautiful aesthetic, then you can get away with a slightly longer media kit, because you're trying to kind of, I guess, encapsulate what your blog is about. But I think for most people you can get away with just 2 pages, short and sweet, because most of the information should be on your blog. If someone's asking for your media kit, they've gone to your blog first, and so they've already got a sense of what your blog is or something. The media kit is just a way of packaging that up neatly for them. Second thing is really simple. Just save it as a PDF. It's so easy to save as a PDF, and really, you know, it's so much more powerful and professional than sending somebody a Word document. And the last one is also just think about what name you give it when you save it, and that kind of speaks to the whole essence of a media kit. So when you are using it and creating it, you need to think about how the other person is going to use it. So sending someone a document that's saved as media kit, whose media kit? Because I've got 500 in my inbox, and I don't know whose media kit that is, so I'm going to have to do more work to kind of Google your name or your blog, your media kit, to find the email or whatever to work out, or I'm going to have to resave the document. So you're thinking about that end user, and so what I recommend is saving it as your blog name, media kit. So, you know, brand meets blog, media kit, month and year, you know, September 2014, because now I know what the blog is, that it's a media kit, and I know how recent it is, so that if I've got someone's media kit on file that's 3 years old, I can at a glance see that's 3 years old, and I know that I then need to contact them to get a more updated media kit. So these are just little things that I promise you can just actually make you stand out so much, because it's all in the little details that you're just making life easier for somebody else who's not just looking at your media kit, but is looking at, especially if they're an agency person and they might have clients who cover 3 or 4 different niches, and so they're actually looking not just at other bloggers in your niche, but they're looking at bloggers in 3 or 4 different niches, and they're trying to keep track of it all. So think about making somebody else's life easier, how they're going to use it, because there are little ways that you can stand out. If I'm going through 30 media kits and 10 of them have a blog name, they're the ones I'm going to go to first, because they're the ones they're just going to be easier for me to look at, rather than a whole bunch that say media kit and I don't actually know whose media kit they are. And that kind of leads me into the so what factor. And again, when you're talking about yourself and your brand, keeping in mind why an agency or brand should care. So you might say, I have a great blog and we write about all of these things because I'm so passionate about helping people with this area of their lives. So what? I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean, that's a question you've got to ask. Why is a brand going to care that you're passionate about helping people with this area of their lives? That's what all blogs are. All blogs are because somebody is passionate about, has expertise in a topic, or in a kind of fit, you know, even for personal bloggers, have got like an essence of things that they're really passionate about. Why is your passion and your blog going to help a brand meet their goals and objectives? So those are the sorts of things you need to be thinking when you're describing yourself. Make it easy for the brand to see the value that you actually are going to offer them, and the value that you offer your readers, and the connection between those two things. Because brands will pay you based on what you can deliver for them. So if you want to get paid, then it's going to need to be more about more than just how many people visit your blog each month. You need to understand how your blog can help them solve their problem, and how it can help them meet their objectives. And we hear about this a lot when we think about blogging generally. We think, well, how do we solve our readers' problems? How do we become a helpful resource for readers? You know, we might entertain them, we might give them tips and advice, we might encourage them, we might give them information they can't find elsewhere. We might be like a kind of blog of authority that's got lots of different information, so they can come to us as like a one-stop shop for their questions about our topic, or whatever. We talk a lot about that, but it's similar to a brand. How does our blog and how does working with our blog help them achieve their overall objectives for their brand? And that's kind of the stuff you need to be thinking in front of mind, and then demonstrating how that works. So it might be that you've done a survey of your readers and you know, or they've given you some feedback around how they've acted on things. It might be that you know that you've got some testimonials from people who've come back and told you how a post that you wrote helped them or made a decision for them. Those are the sorts of things that are going to be quite powerful for a brand to see and to understand about you. And look, for some of you, this stuff is going to be all pretty obvious, and you know, like you're on track with this already with your media kit, and you might be feeling pretty good about it. So that's great. If this is all stuff you've already got in your media kit, then I think that's excellent. You're in a really good position, but you can always make things even better and more sophisticated for yourselves. And that, I think, really has to do with how well you track your influence and how well you understand how readers respond to the posts that you write about brands. So both the ones that you do off your own bat and because of your own personal interests, and the ones where you collaborate with a brand. So really take the time. If you've got the rest of that stuff in order and you're already really clear around how you present yourself through your media kit, then take the time to figure out this other stuff around how your influence works, and do things like using trackable links to find out what readers do when they come to your blog. Where do they go? What do they look at after they've been to your post about a brand? How many people click on links? How long do people spend reading posts on your site? You can do things like compare an average post on my blog gets this number of hits, an average brand post on my blog gets this number of hits. An average post on my blog has someone spend this much time on them, an average post a brand spends this much time on them. These are things that show how well your readers respond. An average post gets this number of comments or this number of shares. An average brand post gets this number of comments, this number of shares. I think one of the things that I feel when I hear bloggers talking about their stats is they feel like their stats have to be really big to work with a brand or to be paid by a brand. And yeah, sure, you do need to have some weight behind your readership, but it's really got more to do with how they engage with you. And I've talked about this previously, how we've engaged bloggers who've had, like 20,000 uniques, and then someone with 3,000 uniques. Actually, the blog with 3,000 uniques was able to drive more engagement around the content. Yep, and the blog with the larger stats drove other kind of activity, but the smaller blog actually had them more engagement. And we're working with another client where we've got someone with a really small blog, but really on brand, really on target for this particular niche. And when we and the brand was really happy, for me to go and talk to them and find out more. And then when I did that, I discovered they were doing all these other really cool things that really fit really nicely with the brand's objectives. And so if you can have that idea of relevance and audience engagement and be open to having those conversations, you don't have to have really huge stats. And in fact, I just need to have a drink of water. Just if you've got questions, chuck them up there. I just need a drink of water. Thanks, sorry. One of the things I worry about is when I see brand, like, and I sort of mentioned earlier that you should use monthly uniques and page views together. And I think that sometimes bloggers want to put in the monthly page views because they're a bigger stat and they look better and they look more impressive. But when you think about it from the brand's perspective and they're looking for certain outcomes, if you've told them that you have these really high stats and then they're going, okay, well, what's delivered from it? Like how many people have clicked on the link and come over to our site? Because they're tracking that through their analytics, or how many people liked it or shared it, or how many people even saw that post, and you've told them, you know, that you have 20,000 people coming a month to your site, and then you've got to go back and tell them, yeah, like 65 people saw the post, they're understandably going to have some questions about that and feel disappointed probably by the outcomes. But if you've gone to them and said, you know, this is how many monthly hits I have, this is how many unique hits I have, because, you know, you might find that, no, hang on, that's the second point. And then this is how many, and then some of that deeper stuff I was talking about a moment ago around, you know, how many people see an average post on your site and how many people see an average brand post. Then they have some expectations they can work with and that they can feel, then when you can go back and deliver, you know, on those targets, or if you even exceed them, then they're going to feel really much more positively about how that whole campaign went. They have to report back to somebody. So you've got to remember that it's not just about getting over the line and getting the post in, it's about then delivering something that's going to make everybody happy with the outcomes, because that's what's going to make people come back and work with you again. And if you're wanting to build up working with brands as a kind of long-term monetization strategy, then you don't want people just coming to you once. You want to build a reputation, and particularly with agencies who have lots of clients, you want to build a reputation as a blogger who can deliver really well and who does a really good job and whose readers really love the kind of approach that you have. So the best way to do that is to be really tracking how people use your site, and particularly how people use and respond to your brand posts. So I really can't emphasize enough how powerful it is for you to know your readers. So let's have a quick recap before we go into question time. We've talked about what a media kit is, that it's just a tool for you to use to introduce your blog to brands and agencies that you want to work with. It's a tool that you can use in lots of different ways, but it's not a essential tool. We've talked about the limitations of it, where you can't put everything in one media kit because different brands and agencies will have different objectives, and so you can't have a media kit that will be able to answer all of those objectives in the one thing. So a media kit's useful, but it's not the be-all and end-all. My 3 hot tips: quick recap, short and sweet, PDF it, and save it using your blog name, as well as the month and year that it was last updated, so that people can see quickly whose it is and how recent it is. We've talked about the so what factor, making sure that when you're putting together all of the information for your media kit, that you're thinking about why that's relevant to the brand or agency who's reading it, and how you're going to help them to solve a problem that they have or to meet an objective that they have, and why working with you is going to be a good way for them to go about that. And then we've talked about that, understanding your readers and how they work, and how doing that can really step things up with your media kit, because you're going to be able to include information that will really help a brand understand why working with your blog is a good idea. So having done all of that and talked about all of the different ways to use a media kit and what to put in a media kit, I'm going to throw a curveball and say to you that you actually don't have to have a media kit. You know, it's a tool you can use and it's useful, and it has its place, but it's not essential. So the main benefits are that if you're going to a group event, it is useful if, you know, a group of bloggers are being asked to supply their media kits. It is just generally useful to be able to go back and say, here's mine, because it's going to make you look professional if like 15 other people have sent theirs and you're saying you don't have yours. you know, it's just going to be useful to have one from a professional appearance. And if you've done a good job with your media kit, then it also gives you the chance to stand out and to look good, and again to have that extra, professional vibe about it. That's a benefit. And I guess the main problem with it is, and my main hesitation around media kits is that I think it's too easy to just send someone your media kit and leave it at that. You know, just flick it back and say, here's my media kit, here's my rates, take it or leave it. And it's definitely harder, but I think also far more beneficial to have a conversation with the brand or agency about the campaign they've sort of contacted you about, to understand more about what their objectives are, and then think about how you're going to help them and how you could send them something that demonstrates the value of working with you. And that's where, you know, we talked about having templates earlier that you might be able to tweak. I towards the end of my blogging, my personal blog, really just sent, you know, got to that question about what people were looking for, and then was able to just reply and say, well, this is the information that you need. Certainly when you're working with people like agencies, I don't care if you send me a media kit or you send me an email. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I need the data, so I need the relevant stuff. And half the time the relevant stuff's not in the email, in the media kit that someone sent me, because it's not the stuff that I need for my, you know, meeting my objectives. So it's, you know, knowing who you're dealing with. I mean, yes, then from a reference point of view, it's helpful to have the media kit, because if I'm not in the moment and I'm trying to look back later, yep, the media kit's going to be a helpful way for me to do that. But I don't really care how you present it to me, and I think sometimes bloggers get caught up on the whole presentation aspect and don't think it's really about the details, it's really about the data. That's the stuff you've got to focus on. So by all means, have a media kit, but just use it wisely and use it carefully. So I'd love to spend some time tonight answering some of your questions about media kits, because I know that there are often lots of questions about this. So I hope you've got some ready for me. But I do, just before I do that, want to talk to you because we're launching our first course next week, and I'm really excited about it. Brandlicious is your step-by-step guide to making brands fall in love with your blog. And, you know, there's lots of great information and advice about being PR friendly around online, and there's lots of stuff around creating media kits. But the question that's not talked about a lot in that information is some of this stuff about measuring your influence and being able to present that in a really powerful way, and also in doing that, in making brands come back to you because you deliver something that's really of exceptional and notable quality. So what we want to do is we want to see you impress the brands to get the work, but then wow them once you've got it, so that you build a reputation as a blogger who's worth working with and who knows how to deliver really good value for brands and for your readers. I'm kind of just, because tonight we're talking about media kits, everything is underpinned by the fact that all of this delivers value for your readers. And I think I'm really excited about Brandlicious because it's going to do both in terms of teaching you both of those things. It's not theory. These are all the tools and the steps I've used on my personal blog and that I use and we use in our business every day. And so the process is really taking you through, I guess, a proven process that's been tried and tested, and that we really use. It's all the tools and the templates and things that are going to help you have this kind of extra value offering to brands. So absolutely, you can do it on your own, and this is really just a shortcut for you because I've already done the work, and so you don't have to do it. I think the other thing about Brandlicious is it's not a general blogging course with one section on monetization or media kits or one kind of module that just touches on all of the things that come under that umbrella. It's an entire course that's dedicated to showing you how to monetize your site working with brands in a way that's natural and feels good for you and your readers. And it's got a whole section on media kits within that, including some extra stuff that we haven't been able to talk about tonight just because of time. Obviously, we've got an hour together tonight, whereas the course goes for 6 weeks, and we can talk a lot more about things like design and other kind of just some more of this stuff in more detail. So I don't know why you want to work with brands. I'm guessing it's because you know that you spend a lot of time building your blog and you want to find a way to monetize that and kind of make your blog pay, and you know that you're building something that can really be of value to brands, and you're looking for ways to do that in a more efficient and financially lucrative capacity. Or maybe you just need to justify all the time you spend doing all of those things, which is totally true as well. So for me, my blogging journey has been really, really amazing, and I'm just really passionate about helping other bloggers have that same experience as well. So the e-course is really all about sharing the stuff I've learned over the years. It's a 6-week dedicated program that will take you through the process of making your blog one that PR and brand managers love and love to work with. 10 modules will be delivered over 6 weeks through a membership site that you'll have a login details to each week. Every few days another module will be released. You'll get an email notifying you that it's available, and you can click over to the site. All the information then will be contained in that site for you once the course is over, so that you can come back and use it as a reference point in future. It will live there for as long as the course lives. It's not going anywhere, so you'll be able to keep coming back to it. And if you miss a week, or if you go away on holidays, or if something else comes up, it's all there. You can just come back to it at your own pace and in your own time. There's no rush, there's no pressure to do it. But there's lots of encouragement and extra support built around the course to make sure that it's something that you get lots of value with. And the thing I'm really excited about is our unique mastermind format that we've got, where each blogger involved will be put in a little mastermind group with 3 or 4 other bloggers, where you'll have that extra little core support group to go through the course with, to encourage each other and to kind of promote each other's work, and just to build a sense of community, because I think community is really essential to blogging. And I think it's really powerful when you're working with brands to have a little tribe of people who really have your back through that process. So nothing is going to be left out of the course. We're going to work through a strategy for how you work with brands, have lots of tools and templates to use in your dealings with brands. And we're going to talk in more detail about media kits. We'll have at least one whole module dedicated to this, so that you can go deeper and make sure that at the end of the course you've got a tool that you can use really effectively. You can find out more at bebrandlicious.com, bebrandlicious.com. And as a special bonus, the first 3 people who sign up tonight will get a media kit consultation with me, where we're going to go through your media kit and tweak it and make sure it's all set up to present your very best self and your very best blog to the brands and agencies that you want to work with. So I really do get emails all the time from people wanting this kind of help, and it's not something I can offer to everybody all the time, but tonight I would love to offer it to you. So if this is something you're interested in, then head over to the website. I'm just going to put it in the little comment box there so you can get the link and you can head over and check it out. But now it's question time. So what questions do you have for me on media kits? Okay, there are some already there. Do we ever ask for screenshots to support the media kit? Look, that can be really helpful. Some people do that. They go into their Google Analytics and they just grab a little snapshot of their stats. So definitely that can be helpful. A helpful thing to involve. I mean, it's really a trust-based business, so if you put stats in your media kit that aren't accurate, then that's going to show in the sort of outcomes that get delivered, and people might have some questions around it, or just it just might make people query a little bit. So be mindful of that. I was thinking of sending my media kit with a brief introduction. Yes, I love it. Yeah, so one of the things we do sometimes is we have little challenges for our bloggers, and one of them is definitely to send your media kit with an introduction to some PRs that are relevant to your blog. Brilliant idea, and that's where it's a tool that's useful, because you're just giving them a snapshot and you're giving them an idea of who you are and why they might be relevant, and then they can come back to you with more information. And that's why you don't want to get too hung up about having exact stats and exact figures in there, because until you know what the brand is and what the opportunity is, it can be hard to know how to price that. And you might be just pricing yourself out of an opportunity that you might otherwise find fabulous, or you might be underpricing yourself on an opportunity where there's more budget available than you've asked for. So that's where you just want to think carefully about how you package up that aspect of your media kit. But yeah, brilliant idea. Definitely encourage you. You should be really doing that every week, finding a few people who you can send your media kit to and introduce yourself. And that's where it does make you look more professional rather than just an email. It's actually you've got something to show them. So yes, that is, Michaela, definitely worth approaching brands directly. And really understanding when you do that they might not be the person who looks after the blogger outreach component. You might look at LinkedIn or Google or find other ways to find out who the right person is to approach, so that you don't get kind of lost in a sea of emails, because people are busy, everybody's busy, and blogger outreach is just one component of a marketing or PR or digital strategy. So be mindful of that when you do the approach, so that you don't feel like you've wasted your time or disappointed if actually it's just that you haven't approached the right person. If you've sent your media kit to a brand, when should you send an updated one? I don't think you need to send updated ones to everybody, because that would just be such a time waster for you. You could use it again strategically, Kate, to remind people that you're there. If you've updated it 6 months later but you haven't done anything with them or heard from them in a while, you could use it as a way to say, hey, just touching base, it's been a while, I wanted to let you know I've got a new media kit, here it is. And of course, I guess if someone came to you and you hadn't worked with them for a while, then you might, in your first interaction back, go, great to hear from you, would love to, find out more, wanted to let you know my media kit's been updated and I'm attaching the latest one for you. So, just kind of apply those sorts of common sense kind of idea, things behind it, and go with that. When in doubt, just think about what are you trying to achieve by sending the media kit, and will sending a media kit help you achieve that? And then I guess if the answers to those questions mean that it makes sense for you to send it, then send it. If it doesn't, then come up with a different way to kind of try to achieve your objectives. Yes, you definitely need to have Google Analytics installed. Yep, you do. It's just the most reliable, and it's also, in terms of like a benchmark, it's what people are expecting you to have. And so because stats and analytics, all different counters work differently, it's like trying to compare apples with oranges. So yeah, you want to have Google Analytics installed. Oh, wow, great questions. Have you got any more for me? I'm going to have another drink of water. One of the things I got asked the other day, just while in case anyone's got any other questions before we wrap up, was how to like brand it, or what colours to use or anything. And I think that you just want to keep it simple. Don't make it anything that's going to distract from people when you create your media kit, and keep it on brand with your blog and the look and feel of your blog. So it should just be an extension of your blog. You want people to open it up and kind of not even know, like kind of you just want it to kind of be there and either be amazing because it so well represents what your blog's about. Although for most people, I think you just don't want it to distract. You don't want it to be jarring or be kind of inconsistent with your branding, because it's all about reinforcing who you are and what your kind of core message is. So don't overcomplicate it. Simple is completely fine. If it's just white with your logo on it, that's fine. Just don't go crazy with colour, unless your blog is crazy with colour, in which case go for gold. And send me your blog link, because I love colour. Okay, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes and see if you've got any more questions. Otherwise, I'll keep an eye on the comments thread later tonight, and you can feel free to pop any more questions there. Yes, Fee, it should be available when this finishes. You should be able to press start and start at the beginning and catch up there. Okay, great. Look, thank you for being here tonight. It was really great. Thanks for your great questions. Don't forget to go to bebrandlicious.com and check out the course, and I will look forward to whoever the first 3 of you are to sign up tonight doing the media kit review. So thanks again for being here, and I'll see you next time.